I'm a firm believer that overhead pressing done right is one of the best things that you could do for your shoulders. So if you've been told that pressing overhead is bad for your shoulders no matter what, I'm going to show you how to do it and show you how that's not the case. Some of the benefits that you can get from overhead pressing. Number one, it's going to open up this position where a lot of us have a tight chest, tight lats, kind of curved upper back, and getting into this position right here where we open up our chest, open up our lats, create thoracic extension is a great antidote to that problem. Especially if you pair some kind of a mobility exercise like pullovers or this barbell overhead exercise that we often do in between pressing sets. The combination of those two things can really help to open up that position. Our arms are supposed to be able to go overhead. We might as well be able to strengthen that position. So I'm going to go over how we teach the overhead press now. Number one, we start with the bar right under the chin. It's very important that you keep your elbows just under the bar like this. I almost tell people slightly in front of the bar. One big mistake a lot of people make is they sink too low and their elbows go behind the bar. And this is just kind of a tough position on your shoulders, your rotator cuff, everything in general. So we keep the elbows under the bar. We pull the face back out of the way like you smell something bad. And then the goal is not to loop the bar or press it out in front of you. Again, really tough on the shoulders, but to push it up and back. And you lean forward slightly at the top of the movement. If we're looking at it here, I want my arms behind my ears if I'm looking at it from the side. And that's not by just throwing my head through super far, but just kind of letting my body lean forward naturally. I'm pulling the bar almost like I'm pulling it straight down through my head and getting my head slightly out of the way. Very controlled and slow. We like to really own this overhead position and hold it right up here. A lot of times, especially on the last rep. So that's how we would start teaching the overhead press. Once an athlete has mastered the overhead press, and for a lot of our adults too, if they are doing cleans and front squats, they should be pretty familiar with the front rack position. And so from there, we can go into a push press. With the push press, it's really important that, my mic's in the way here, but that your shoulders are kind of holding the weight as opposed to holding it in your hands. You can get away with this at lighter weight, but if you ever get significant weight on push preps and you're holding it in your hands and you dip, it's going to start sliding down your chest on you. So you want your shoulders kind of holding the weight from here, face back, so you don't uppercut yourself with the bar. The other thing is the elbows don't need to be up like a front squat, and they're not down like a press. It's about 45, halfway in the middle. We breathe in, brace to make sure our trunk is pressurized so we don't have a flimsy core. And you would dip under control, driving the knees out and keeping the torso completely vertical, right to about the point where your knees meet your toes. And then you drive up with your legs and finish with your arms. When you catch, if it's heavy, you can kind of catch like you catch a clean. Finally, for a lot of our athletes, we will get into a push jerk or a power jerk at some point. We do have athletes split jerk too if they're thinking about Olympic lifting, but that's a whole nother video, so we're not going to get into that right now. So with the push jerk, basically just you're popping it up with your legs and you're kind of keeping your feet right where they're at, like a no-foot clean or a no-foot snatch. So it teaches the athlete, a lot of times they kind of jump too much, their feet actually leave the ground and they just get really unstable in this catch position. And if you keep their feet a little bit more glued, they can kind of feel the rhythm of what it's supposed to feel like to dip under control, pop it up with the legs, and then push themselves back under the bar to catch in a little bit of that lower position. So sometimes with this one, hands a little bit wider is going to help, just slightly wider than you normally would for a press or a push press. But if you have really mobile shoulders, not everybody has to do that. Kind of the same thing with the elbows. Breathe in, brace, torso stays totally vertical. We're going to dip under control, pop it up, and right after we pop it up through the legs, think about pushing yourself down and punching up to the ceiling as opposed to catching the bar. And that will be a push jerk. So if you've been told that pressing overhead is bad for your shoulders no matter what, then all the Olympic lifters in the world will be walking around with crippled shoulders and impingement and they're not. It's actually one of the least common injuries of all the injuries you can get, Olympic lifting, and those guys are throwing weight overhead 3, 4, 5 days a week. So is overhead pressing with a barbell for everybody? No, it's not. There's tons of different variations you can do, like landmine, single arm kettlebell overhead presses, but for a large majority of people, more than you would think, it is a great exercise to do. We have a ton of adults and athletes alike in here who have all said, hey, my shoulders are feeling a lot better, my posture's better, my shoulders feel stronger, my upper back feels stronger from doing this exercise.